because I'm always hearing people say, don't settle. Don't settle, don't settle, don't settle. Oh, I'm not settling for this. I'm not going to settle for this. I'm not going to lower my standards. And that is causing havoc, total havoc to the relationship market. Because every relationship, I don't care whether it's a personal relationship, at work, in the community, whenever you have two people or a group of people coming together that have to be compromised to for any relationship to work. And so part of compromise is putting aside some of your differences and at the same time accepting someone else's differences that's unlike yours, which equates to settling to some degree. Now, that don't mean you have to settle for anything and everything, but please stop using the term that I will not settle. Because what you're saying is, I don't plan on being in a relationship with anybody except myself, because you're not willing to compromise. And I know this is a message that's being pumped out there, and the propaganda of it is being pushed out there, and people are buying it like it's something new on the market. I will not settle. Well, you just have to determine what you're willing to settle for, but stop saying you will not settle, because we all have to settle, because we all have to compromise in a relationship. And you saying you're not going to settle, a lot of times you don't hear and know what the other person is thinking and what they think of you and how much they have settled to be with you. So you're saying, I want the person just for me. The truth of the matter is, you in your own way in many cases, saying, I want the person just for me, and they have to be this way and that way. So everything is determined by you without considering another person. That is a recipe for disaster when you're talking about relationships or dealing with other people. So we have to compromise. We have to settle. Again, don't get me wrong. That don't mean you have to settle and compromise with everything. You have to determine that and make sure it's adjusted appropriately and not bloated. Some people's standard says, my standards is this or my standard is that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with having standards. But when you have standards that's bloated and unrealistic, the market is going to let you know, because you're not going to get any buyers. And some of you that's single and you've been listening to your friends or listen to society saying don't settle, I don't know anybody that's in a relationship that have not settled to some degree on something. You have to settle, because everybody is not you. They're not going to do things the way you want them done. They're not going to say what you want them to say. And some people have been trained to think everything have to revolve around everything that suits them. That's just not how relationships work. They have to look perfect. They have to make the right type of money. They have to dress right. They have to have the everything in order. Or it's called settling. It's not settling, because people are different. There's going to be something that's not right with everybody to some degree. They may be well off. Their personality may be off. They may be well off, but their personality may be off. Or their personality may be intact and their money off. So it's going to be a compromise somewhere. And that's just like getting a job. That's a compromise. Getting into a relationship or working with people, period. I don't know where that comes from. I wish it would be buried and never resurface, because telling people not to settle, and again, because some of you, when you hear settle, you think, I'm not just accepting anything. But what about if you hear about what other people really think of you? The ones that everybody want to get more than what they're worth. They want a better car than what they can afford. They want a bigger house than what they can afford. They want the best this, the best that. And so there have to be a compromise involved. It's no way around it. So in relationships, because people coming from different backgrounds, different beliefs, different thoughts, different worldviews, whether it be religious or social views or politics or, um, just a whole slew of things. And so that person is not going to always match you point for point. That means you're going to compromise. And that means you're going to have to settle and say, okay, I can live with this. So again, get that mindset, uh, those thoughts rather out of your mind in terms of settling, because to be in a relationship is required. There's no other way. Now find your range of what is in your range or suitable for you, and make sure that's aligned with truth, because some people think that they at a certain level, and the truth of the matter is you're just not, and nobody is telling you that. And so when someone tell you that, you have been trained to say reject that. If anything that don't appease me, reject it, instead of taking a hard look at it and saying, you know what, maybe that's true. So again, it's just a few thoughts I wanted to provoke you. I'm not going into anything deep. I just like provoking thoughts. Get the thought in and ponder it, and then decide if it works for you, do something. If it don't, throw it out. But stop saying, I will not settle. And people that's saying that is normally single and by themselves, and some of you been that way for a longer time. So try saying something different, that I'm willing to settle. I'm willing to do something different. I'm willing to coexist with somebody, because that's what it's going to take to coexist. It's going to require you giving some of yourself up, giving some of the things you want, because if everything revolves around you, it's all about you, and it's not going to work anyway. So you're going to either settle going into it and compromise, or you're going to settle at the end when that person leaves and realize you don't have anybody to be with you. So keep that in mind, and remember to keep it real, keep it raw, and always strive to keep God first.